Richard Cowper, The Twilight of Briareus, 1974. On the murky outskirts of our solar system, a lonely star has exploded, emitting monstrous doses of radiation. The year is 1983. The exploding star, Briareus Delta, 132 light-years away, provokes only mild interest from planet Earth. Suddenly, appalling tornadoes and storms ravage the cities and countryside, leaving death and desolation in their wake. Then mankind realizes another terrifying side effect. Every adult in the world has been rendered infertile. Schoolteacher Calvin Johnson discovers he is one of the select few to have acquired strange psychic powers. Termed Zetas, these people experience mental flashes of the future, a future of freezing isolation, snow-swept landscapes, and bleak, icebound cities. A second ice age is imminent as man faces the ultimate horror, extinction. Welcome to Vintage SF. I'm Richard Rempel. The Encyclopedia of Science Fiction's John Clute talks about this novel being the best singleton that Richard Cowper has written. Singleton is another way of saying a standalone novel. Richard Cowper, or Cooper, is a pseudonym for John Middleton Murray Jr. A school teacher by trade, he was also a writer, and when he started to write science fiction, he assumed this pseudonym. John Clute talks about his work having a liminal quality to it, a sense of mood and otherness. In introducing science fictional elements, he's not looking for wonder, he's looking for the emotional impact on his characters. He uses this as a way to explore relationships. And that is true of The Twilight of Briareus. From the Richard Cowper entry in the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, The Twilight of Briareus, 1974. In this tale, England has been transformed, through a disruption in world weather caused by a supernova explosion, into a snowbound Arcadia. From the same apparent source later come psychic influences, which lead to complex interaction between humans and aliens. The story, like all of Richard Cowper's best work, is charged with a strange, expectant vibrancy. Its explorations of human perception demonstrate an openness not unlike that described in John Keats' remarks about negative capability, remarks that Richard Cowper has quoted in print. Keats's plea was for a kind of waiting expectancy of the mind, which should be kept free of preconceptions. Richard Cowper does not usually link telepathy with the idea of the Superman, as is more normally found in USSF uses of the convention. Instead, it can be seen in his work as an analog of negative capability. Now, I don't pretend to exactly understand everything that's being said in this description. Perhaps my more well-read viewers will be able to comment on this. However, I do see relationships as being the core of this novel. The novel itself combines a disaster, massive doses of radiation hitting the atmosphere of the Earth, creating unbelievable climate changes. And along with it is supposed to have surfed some sort of alien influence, an alien influence which has rendered people infertile. But it has also carried along a sexually charged influence, the one that these Zetas feel. This is terrifying to Calvin Johnson. He's a school teacher. And the one he's attracted to, the other Zeta, is a student. Why has this alien influence created the Zetas? What's different about them? Why is there this charged attraction? They too are infertile. This all occurs within about the first quarter of the novel. In the structure of the novel, we have a moment that seems to be the present, and then we go backwards in time to tell the story of how the characters got to that moment. It is a written account of Calvin Johnson with some additional pieces added in. I would say the strengths of this novel is that it has good prose and very interesting character development. There's a combination of horror and attraction to what has happened, and there's an apathy across the earth when people realize that they are the last generations, that there will be no more children. The novel spans about 16 or 17 years. As you can imagine, there's some surprising developments and a paradigm shift of sorts at the end. Now, in fiction, authors often name their characters carefully. Sometimes they're trying to make a metaphor or an analogy with their name. This one, I think, is of that sort. Calvin Johnson, initials CJ, I see characters all the time with initials of JC, so it's just reversed, and it usually refers to some sort of a religious sacrifice of some sort. One of the obvious ones in pop culture is the name John Coffey from Stephen King's The Green Mile. He is a form of a sin eater. Now, I don't want to talk about how the metaphor analogy for Calvin Johnson works, but it is just something I noted. I found this novel captivating for the first half or so, and then it kind of dragged, and I'm not sure if I'm pleased exactly with its ending. In some ways, I was wondering if he was trying to leave it open-ended so they could move on from a singleton into a series. The one drawback for some readers might be this teacher-student relationship that is forced upon them, but still has a very ick factor to it. I wondered why the Zetas seemed to be very young women and men who were at least 10 years their senior. Why couldn't the men just be young men, contemporary to the females? But I'm speaking with contemporary eyes. I'm not sure what the 60s and 70s were like in this regard, but I suspect that it's pretty common in literature of those days. I know there's some science fiction authors definitely that do have these age differences. To conclude, The Twilight of Briareus is both a catastrophe novel and also a novel of transformation of humanity. This is another common theme in science fiction. You might think of Childhood's End. I give The Twilight of Briareus 8 out of 10. So have you read The Twilight of Briareus? How about other novels by Richard Cowper? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep reading.